Evolution is going to fall by the wayside, just like the Big Bang did. Check out what I found. And I'm working on more stuff. Evolution is going to go the way of the dodo bird. The man himself, the man who came up with evolution, says that there needs to be an intelligent agent in order for evolution to occur, in order for natural selection. The man himself.
That's right. You're the one who said that. Then you're the one who I learned that from. Actually, yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that too until a couple of days.
Oh,
So,
okay. Oh,
yeah, I'm looking into it now, just like we should be doing. I'm actually going through papers Darwin, from Darwin, and you guys are going to be shocked in what I found. This is just part of it.
I would say most people who believe in evolution have never read Darwin, any Darwin literature at all.
Absolutely, because had they
Yeah.
done so, I'm guilty as well. I just read a few things, right? But now I'm really taking a deep dive, and holy schmoly, man. Yep, there's big problems. The man himself admitted that there's nothing of proof. There's no proof here. Let me just read a little bit here. These difficulties may classed under the following heads: the apparent impossibility in some cases of a very simple organ graduating by small steps into a highly perfect organ, the marvelous fact of instinct and the whole question of hybridity, and lastly, the absence of the present time in our geological formations of immeasurable links connecting all these species. What I've been saying all along, there's absolutely nothing in the fossil record, nothing to for any of this stuff. It's just a man-made thing. No, guy, you're wrong. There's no fossils. There's no intermediary fossils. And I just found out, the missing link that they say of humans, it's not there. The missing link, which they, just for us, for coming from apes to humans, it's not there. There is no missing link. Yeah, it's much, much worse than I thought. It happens every time. When I look into something, it happens every time. It always lies and always not what they say. It's amazing.
Isn't there a big issue with like the heart going from 3 ventricles to 4 and like developing that flap? How it would be only half of a flap or something? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, bro, there's so much more. There's the length of the arms, the throat, the gait. There's so much, bro. It's just unbelievable how much there is. Once I finish all this research, I might even do a presentation on it. That's how much stuff there is on it.
I look forward to that, Essie. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Are we still evolving? Like right now, have we evolved at all in the past? Like, let's just say the beginning of recorded human history. Have we evolved at all, or what do they say about that?
Negative. It's worse than that, bro. We just appeared. We just appeared out of nowhere. That's the most fascinating thing I found so far, right? Like you have species of apes and you see them, their eyes, they explain everything, right? And then we just popped out of nowhere. Boop! Here we are, different skull, different eyes, different brow ridge, different everything, different bones, different sizes, muscle, less muscular, like so many things, bro. We just appeared out of nowhere in the fossil, in the record. Boom.
That's a tough claim. Very tough claim to stand by.
Yeah, bro. It's really worse than I thought. For example, all the creatures that they say we came from, right? We have nothing similar. Their bones are thicker. Like if you see a finger bone of one of us and one of them, it's like it's so much smaller. It's unbelievable. Our bones are different. They're longer. They're thicker. They have more muscle than us. Our head our cranium is different. The eyebrows are. Everything is different. There's nothing similar. Nothing. The missing link that they say. It's a lie. There is no missing link.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello. When
You're
was
good,
this? When was this original fossil that you said there was? It would have to be something between us and something else. What was that else?
That's just it. There is nothing else. There's I'll post a video so you can it'll explain everything I'm saying. So I'm sure I'm not doing it justice. But they have like 4 or 5 creatures that they say evolved, and we're supposed to be next in line, right? But when you look at them and us, it's totally different. There's like the guy said there's got to be like at least 100 more individuals in between what they say is us and our last common ancestor. There's just nothing similar about it.
Are you saying are not similar?
Say again?
Which species are you saying? Subspecies are you saying is not similar?
I believe they called it Cro-Magnon, or I forget the name of it. The one that they say is right before us. I wish I had a better memory. But I'll post the video so you can see it. The species that they say came before us, which we transitioned from, they're saying that it's impossible because there's just so much. There's got to be much more transition between us and them, like the skull, the bones, the length of the arms, the foot. He explains the gait of your foot. It's truly amazing, and there's just no intermediate species between that one and us. Just doesn't exist.
I'm quite sure if you look at they have found like bones in Scandinavia are like 10,000 years old, and they were like a bit shorter than us, but they were very similar. I think they are very similar to Cro-Magnon. Like if you compare it with height, for example, that's something that has changed like in the last few hundred years. But it's primarily like due to our ability to like we can eat more. We got like we can eat as much as you want, which they couldn't before. I'm not sure what you're saying that they are not similar, because they are very similar to what we look today.
Well, I just I advise you have a closer look, right? Because they say a lot of stuff, and you're gonna have to learn a few things, right? Like how the skulls are, the length of the arms, especially the elbow, right? In apes, the elbow is way longer than ours, and if you do some research, you'll see that the early fossil guys, they did a lot of skullduggery. They stuck the arm where it shouldn't be, and all this. It's like I'm sure if you have a look at what you think was humanoid, you'll find a lot of characteristics that are not. But you just got to know about them, right? The throat, the skull, the eyebrow ridges. Like us, we have eyebrows, right? But we don't have skull ridges. If you look at those bones of the early apes, you're going to see all of them have eyebrow ridges. In other words, bone there, right? And so many other things, that the thickness of the bone and the foot, how like you got to watch this thing. I'm going to post it, and you're going to learn a lot of stuff.
Cro-Magnon doesn't have eyebrow ridges. Cro-Magnon doesn't have eyebrow ridges.
They don't have eyebrow ridges. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm looking at them now.
Okay. How about the thickness of the bones, the skull? In other words, look, we're big, right? But if you take a chimpanzee, if you see a chimpanzee without hair, you're gonna blow your mind. It's like a weightlifter, right? If you put the strongest human in a room, a cage fight with a chimpanzee, put the strongest guy you can think of, right? He'll get mangled. He'll stand no chance. So the thickness of the bone, when you find a skeleton, right? the thickness of the bone says how strong the animal is, for example, and it made a lot of sense. In other words, your muscle determines the strength of your arm or your leg, right? So if you got thick bones, that means you have muscles that were stronger. In other words, if your muscles are stronger than your bone, you'll break your bone. So the thickness of the bone determines how strong, how much muscle they had. So when they do research, it's like no competition. One of these guys will like pop our head like a pimple, apparently. That's how much stronger they were than us. So there's very distinctive things that they can find and see that they're not even close to humans.
To me, the Cro-Magnon looks more similar to humans than to any other ape. So I don't know what you want to say about that.
I just
They
explained
do
it,
not
bro.
look they don't look similar to chimpanzees at all, for example.
Yeah, I just explained to you the things you got to look for: thicker bones, skull ridges, the feet. There's many things that they can look at and see right away that this thing is nothing close to human.
What is your definition of close to human?
Well, similarities, like less thick bones, a skull that looks similar, the feet. There's so many things. The elbows, how long they are. There's so many things we can look at.
Something that is, you want to define something that is quite similar, like exactly like a human? Or like this is a little bit taller, right? It's a little bit taller. It's a little bit more dense bone. If it weren't as tall, it would be the same height as a human. So then you would basically have a human.
Well, you're not understanding. There has to be a transition. If we evolved from these apes, you can't just have those characteristics and then boom, out of nowhere, you have a newly developed thing. This is what I'm trying to tell you that maybe you're not understanding. There's no transition between the last humanoid and us. We just boom appeared with all these specialized things. There's no transition.
1600 generations between us and the Cro-Magnon. Are we saying that in this 1600 generation, you couldn't have evolved like perhaps like there could be some interbreed, which we know actually happened with a smaller species, for example, the Neanderthal, or you have like other species that are also smaller. That is called Habug. Sorry, I'm gonna find them.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you. There should be intermediate species between those two, but there isn't. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's like us, we just popped in the way we are, with our skull, with our smaller arms, with our no fur, with less power, a weird gait in our feet that's distinguishable, all these things. In other words, the missing link that they say is still missing. There is no missing link species that will tie that to us. And that's just in one species. I didn't even start on the other, where one species has to turn into another one. That is kills them, and they just leave and they get upset. But this in particular one, there's no tie-in between us and between one single species. There's no tie-in between that.
But even when you look at current species, you already have like 10 centimeters difference in height between like Scandinavians and Asians, for example. Like, or you look at like Filipinos, like they're like 15 centimeters difference. That is like approximately the same height difference between Cro-Magnon or a human. So I don't think it's like, yeah, like you already have all these variations in the current population, but you're saying there should be some extra step for some reason.
Not me, the
which I don't
experts are saying
actually
it.
see.
There's no for some reason. I'm not making this up. The experts are saying this. There has to be a link. In order for there to be evolution, there has to be a link from the last known ape to us, and there isn't. The fossil record just shows up to what we call Cro-Magnon, I think, and then boom, a whole complete new creature, which is us. Less thicker bones, no hair, different skull, different feet, shorter arms, lighter bones, less powerful. Starting to get the picture? It's kind of like a de-evolution from those dudes, if you want to look at it that way.
It's
Of course, our brain, yeah, that's an evolution, but you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
There's no
like
intermediate. Like,
clearly.
I don't know how many times I have to say it for you to catch it, man.
Why do you call it de-evolution? Like, are you saying that gorillas are more evolved than humans
Less
because they're
evolved.
stronger?
No, less evolved because of our brain. We can
You,
control them one on one.
yes, I know, but you said we de-evolved from Cro-Magnon
Well, it doesn't it appear that way? What do you think is more evolved, you or a gorilla?
because I can control him, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. You're more
So
intelligent. You're less smart. You're less physically capable, of course, but our brains make up for it. One on one, they'll destroy us, right? They'll pop us like a pimple. But a group of us, right,
yeah.
will control
So
all
why
as we have.
so why did you say we de-evolved from Cro-Magnon?
Do you have hard time comprehension skills, bro? Seriously. Do I have to explain
Yes.
every little detail to you, or you're just trying to find? To me, it's like you're not having a conversation. You're trying to find something wrong in what I'm saying. And if that's the case, bro, I really don't want to talk with you.
You're saying we are more evolved than gorillas, even though they are larger than us. But for some reason, Cro-Magnon was more evolved than us because they were bigger, even though we apparently are like obviously have like a huge evolutionary advantage,
I never said
regardless of
that.
our size. Okay, that's fine. I think you said it, but that's fine. If you didn't, then you maybe there's a mistake.
I didn't make any mistake at all, buddy. Not at all. I said what I said. Maybe you misunderstood what I said.
Then fine. I'm not gonna push on it. That's fine.
Yeah, there's no reason for us to argue. These are all things that we can discuss logically, right? If there's no missing link, we have a problem. I mean, it's that simple. If there's no skeleton remains found of how we transitioned from apes to us, that's a big problem. That means that it was just a story made up.
We are apes, I see.
Yeah, true that.
Mm-hmm. We are great apes, to be exact.
Can't argue with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got the bones like 20,000 years ago, and they are like I wouldn't say like boom we appeared. You have like the Heidelbergensis that look quite similar to our current species, and as you said, like the Cro-Magnon also look very similar, even though but they were like you could say that they are larger than we are now, but like some in between like Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon, which were Neanderthal which were shorter than us, and Cro-Magnon which were larger than us. It makes sense that they would maybe like evolve some other subspecies, right? But I'm not sure what you mean by boom out of nowhere.
I'll explain
Like
it.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure if there was, if you look at some human from like 10,000 years ago, they would look like a little bit different than us. They would be shorter, but yeah.
Yeah, you're not getting it, bro. I'm not talking about humans. Take that idea out of your head. Okay? I'm talking about the fossil record that they say we came from apes. The last species of ape that they say we evolved from has nothing to do with us. There is no similarities whatsoever. We could have not come from that ape. There had to be intermediate species between that ape and us. I don't know how else to tell you, bro, in simpler terms. That species is not there, not found. The missing link is not there. There is no intermediate species between that ape and us.
Bones that exist of a hominin species that are like between 40,000 years ago and now.
Which part of what I said was hard to understand, bro? Like, I don't get it, man.
So you're saying intermediary, but I'm not sure what you mean by intermediary. Like, how
A
close do they have
species,
to be? Like, and then when you said like Cro-Magnon, you said they should be a little bit shorter and a little bit less bone. But if they have that, then they are basically look exactly like humans. So I'm not sure what you're looking for. More intermediary, like.
my God, man. Okay, I'm gonna post you a video because I'm not getting through to you. Hold on.
Doesn't help me when you can't explain what the intermediary is.
No, you don't. You're thick. You're not getting it. Your brain is not working. So here you go. I posted something. It's a minute. This might help you. Please have a look at that. Just a minute.
You're savage, dude.
Well, bro, I mean, I don't want to be mean, but I explained it to him like 5 times. I mean, what else can I say?
Sometimes you gotta be mean.
To what intermediary is, but you don't explain what intermediary is. You just say, I want it to have less bones and be
He
shorter.
still doesn't get what intermediate means. After all I said, like, he's trolling, obviously, right?
Can you explain what I mean?
Repeated what you said back to you, and you're still saying, I don't understand.
Buddy, are you going to watch the video or not? If you're not, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
I'd
It's
rather
a
you
waste
didn't
of time.
understand at this point, to be honest.
Personally,
Are you going to watch the video so we can continue? Or
where did you put it?
live stream?
5 minutes after the hour, bro. I'm watching it. Charles Darwin is a blowed up peckerwood.
I was saving that one. I got to shout out Jeremy for this. He's not here, of course. Jeremy put me onto this video. You see how devastating it is?
A guy, do you understand that video?
Mute you guys until I watch the video. I'll be back.
What exactly? I mean, what exactly does it prove, Essie? I'm just curious. What exactly does it prove?
Sorry?
I said, what exactly does your video prove?
It's not a proof. I'm just showing the inconsistencies. This is just some of the stuff I found, but we can't even get past this, right? I just want to show that there's not an intermediate species like they say there is. And that's a big
Okay.
problem.
Well, I don't see why it's that big of a problem when you can genetically trace humans back to the main origin like 10 million years ago. So if you were to argue that, oh, there's a missing link or there's missing information between certain evolutionary states of humans, and fine, you can make that a valid argument, but that doesn't preclude the fact that humans in and of themselves are a subspecies of great apes.
That's just not true.
Sorry. That's funny. The confidence, bro, is really funny.
I
The
think you're
confidence-
wrong, buddy. I think you're very
How?
wrong.
How are you very wrong? If all your genetics are linked, and yeah, sure, you could say I'm missing physical evidence. That's fine. I can agree with that. Sure, I can put point to that premise, but that doesn't remove, right, the reality that from a genetic standpoint, we are the 5th great ape. I mean,
Incorrect. You
if
can be more
four
incorrect.
things are generally the same, and genetically they're kind of genetically the same, and you can trace them all, and humans follow that same path, then why would humans just be different when they have the same genetic makeup?
See if you can not talk while I answer you. Can you do that?
Just shut up and talk.
Did you hear that? He's gonna get muted for that. Sorry, buddy, that's not gonna work. I'm gonna mute you for 10
Are
minutes.
you gonna talk or what? Like let's go. Put your point across the table.
Starting off great.
Nope, I just muted him for 10 minutes. Understand one thing. You're not gonna come here and ad hom and mute and just swear at people. So get your act together. You'll be back in 10 minutes if you want to join our conversation, sir.
Dude, isn't that like a product of evolution thinking right there? Kinda.
Yeah. You see, I'm not ad homing. I'm not making things up. I'm just showing them stuff, right? And they're just getting upset.
Let's pretend
No.
let's pretend he was cordial and let you speak. Go ahead, Essie.
Yeah,
What were you
well,
gonna say to him?
I made my point, right? I made my point. I showed a video of somebody that studies this showing exactly what I said. The missing link is not there. What they have to do is show from the last ape that they say we evolved from, they have to show an evolutionary process. Skeletons in between what they say is the last ape and us. That's it. Very simple.
If we watched a little bit longer, he weren't talking about the Cro-Magnon. He were talking about human bones that were found that was like 1,000,000 years old, something like that. They weren't speaking about Cro-Magnon at all. But
What are you talking about? You're lucky somebody unmuted you. So,
yeah,
are you ready to discuss the findings, or are you going to just ad hom?
I'm not add-onning. If you watched like maybe 1 minute longer than what you said, then he showed you the fossils that you were talking about, and
Incorrect.
he wasn't referring to Cro-Magnon.
Incorrect.
Okay.
The man, you're lying. The man clearly says that there is no link. He's lying. Anybody can watch the thing and you'll see.
You're not understanding what I'm saying. I'm saying the man you're saying he's correct. He's saying that there is a missing link and that there's like there should be some kind of transitional bone, but he was not talking about Cro-Magnon. He was talking about some fossil that were found that were like over 1,000,000 years old.
Irrelevant. He clearly says that there is no fossil, there's no intermediate fossil. Clearly states that.
No
Clearly.
links. Yep.
It's basically an intermediate between the bone that he showed in the sketch in his presentation and us, but that's not what he was talking about. So I think like I don't know where you got the Cro-Magnon from. I don't know why you think that's an ape or
I didn't
something.
say Cro-Magnon. I said I wasn't sure. You're lying. You're just here to just make confusion. It's very simple. That guy said exactly what I said. There is no intermediate link. So you can say whatever you want.
What you said, because you specifically said, is there something between Cro-Magnon or not? So that's what I've been reading up on. But when I watched the video, he was discussing some completely other fossil that is not like similar to Cro-Magnon at all. It's much older.
You're being disingenuous. I said I wasn't sure of the name. You're being very disingenuous, sir, and you're lying. I said I wasn't sure of the name. It could be Cro-Magnon or whatever. It's the species before ape and us. I very clearly stated that, and he very clearly states there's no intermediate. So what you're trying to do here, sir, is disingenuous.
What's the ape fossil? What fossil would you call this is the ape?
Very clearly stating he has the 4 or 5 of them there in a row. He shows them very clearly exactly what I said. You're being disingenuous, sir. Would you care to change your tactic? Because you have nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I just asked you a question.
A question of what? What is the ape? The last ape? I
Yes.
showed you a video, sir. He clearly
Yeah, and
explains what they are. If you want to learn more, right? Watch
I
the
think
video. Watch the video.
I seem to have known more about the video than you did, and I just watched 5 minutes of it.
No,
Why
you have
do you
no clue what
buy
I was
everything
talking
in the
about.
video?
Go ahead. No, you have no clue
Yeah.
of what I was talking about. I just brought it up. What you're doing now is the typical baller tap dance. You have nothing. You're just doing ad homs. That's all you're doing. Well, I have the proof. I showed it. I
And who
explained how it
insulted
works.
you?
I explained the differences. Now it's up to you if you want to believe it or not. But this ad hom is not going to work.
You just explain the differences between the Cro-Magnon and human bones, and you think that is like supported by that expert that those are not very different. But you weren't talking about that bone at all. That was something you actually just brought up for some reason.
No, you're absolutely wrong. I explained in detail the difference between that last ape, the skull, the thickness of the bones, the hair. I was very detailed. You, sir, are just here to ad hom. That's what you're doing. I was very specific in what I said. And I even showed a video of a man explaining what I said word
Yeah.
for word.
No, it didn't explain what you were for. That's the thing. I asked you specifically what you mean by difference, right, in these bone structures. And the Cro-Magnon is actually very similar to us. They're very similar. But then,
Once again, you're lying. I never said
you,
Cro-Magnon. Take that word out of your mouth. Cro-Magnon, take it out of your mouth. You are lying, sir. I was very, very explanatory, and I said what that ape is. I don't remember the name. You can go back. I said Cro-Magnon or whatever. That last ape, irregardless of the name of it, right? And I explained the difference of the bones, the thickness, the muscle mass, the skull, the hair, the feet. I explained in very detail. If you don't understand that, sir, that's on you.
One sec.
could you
Can you
give me
let
the
him
name?
finish though?
Could you give name of it? Could you give me the name of the ape species that you're talking about so I can read up on it?
I just told you I don't remember the name. I told you I'm going to post the video. You can check the name of the guy saying it and you can look up everything I said. You're being disingenuous, sir. You have a new information that I laid out. You had no idea about it and you're just doing the baller tap dance. We're on to you guys. You didn't
Well,
even
if
know
I
this
were
before
to
I brought this up. You didn't even
if
know
I were
about
to
this.
watch this video, I feel like I will know more about this topic than you do. So I'm
You
not sure
probably
if I'm
will.
gonna do that.
Yeah, you probably would.
I'm
You
not.
probably, maybe you
I'm not.
would, maybe you wouldn't.
So
But you're just ad
Probably
homing. You're
will.
bringing nothing to the conversation. You're just ad homing, sir.
I feel like your claim is very vacuous when you can't even like bring forth like you can't even explain like the details or even which bone it was, or how old it was.
I
Like
just did.
what's the
I
point of
just
why?
explained to you.
Okay,
You see,
how old is it?
you see
How
what you're
old is it?
doing? You see what you're doing? You have no idea of this, right? You didn't know anything about what I said. I came up with some great findings, and you're just questioning me now. For no reason, you're just being confrontational without having any idea of what I did. You just read up on a couple of things. You know what? I really don't care what you think, buddy. This is for the audience. I'm going to
Yeah.
look into this further and I'm going to bring further
Yes.
information to this. And I really
Yes.
don't care what you think.
Do that, and then until then I will not read anything. When you get some details I can read up on it, because right now I have no idea what to read. Like there are like
Buddy,
literally like thousands
your
of different.
opinion is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I'm bringing information to the people here.
Yeah.
What you think of it is truly irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. You're just causing a blockage in our very good conversation, and you're preventing me from bringing information that I found. Yeah, that's what you're doing.
You will let me say anything you wanted to. I just asked you a question and somehow you take it as an insult. So I don't know. That's your problem, I think.
No, the problem is yours. I'm bringing information to the people here, and you are questioning this without having any knowledge. You're just saying, nah. I brought to you pertinent information. I showed you a video of a man that has studied this a lot, and I'm just bringing the information that I found. You are being confrontational without having the slightest inkling of this conversation. That's what you're doing. So let's just move on. I don't really want to talk with you anymore because you're irrelevant. So, guys, what do you think of these new findings?
Regardless.
What new findings? I must have came in late.
Well, first of all, the greatest finding that I found here of all of this evolution research is Darwin himself writing in a paper stating that the transition process, the evolutionary process, the selection process, he can't see how this could be done without an intelligent agent, a god. That's the coup de grace. That's the best thing I found so far. The man that the evolutionary dudes claim there's no God that happened like this, that person claims that there had to be a God, an intelligent thing in the design. It's amazing.
That's pretty funny, actually.
What do you got to say to that, buddy?
Did you post it? Post that again. I
I can post it. Yeah, give me a sec. Yeah.
I don't know, SC. I think you just proved the missing link is just missing. I don't see the point.
You don't see the point that there's really? You don't see the point that the missing link is missing? That's a good one, bro. Yeah.
You just put missing in missing link. I don't get it.
I want to see that quote. I want to see what paper that is. Darwin said. That's crazy.
So
hey, I told you a couple weeks ago, SC. The only way they've been defending you on evolution was ad homs and semantics. And the first guy used semantics, and the second guy used ad homs, and then they started switching back and forth.
Yeah, bro, that's all they have. That's all they have. They try to get on your goat. They try to get you mad. They try to make you swear. And even if you're right, you look bad, right? But that's not going to work anymore. I'm going to tell you exactly what your guys say, and I'm going to watch you guys get, whatever. I'm just going to present the facts, and the facts are daunting. The facts are against you guys badly.
Yeah, when you get a tag me in it when you post it. I'm going to save it.
Sorry. I have to just respond to that. From what I get is that there is some, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there is some fossil that existed some X amount of years ago, and there should be some transition between that fossil that we don't know what is or how old it is yet, and between us. That is what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is, listen carefully. This is just on the human evolution from apes. The last ape that they say we ascended from, there is massive differences in our skull and our bones and everything. There's no intermediate species between that and us. I said it 20 times. It's never going to change. I'm always going to say the same thing. I don't know why you don't understand that.
That's what I said, but you just exchanged this fossil that I don't know the age of yet or what its name is. And us, you called it ape. But if you look at the terminology, we are also apes. So therefore I'm confused because you're like misusing the terminology a little bit. You're saying last ape, but we are apes and chimpanzees are also apes. So I don't know what you mean. Do you mean the common ancestor between?
That's a useless question right there. That's making me say I don't really want to talk with you, bro. I really don't want to talk with you anymore.
He's just avoiding making a positive claim, right? He just tap dancing around. He can't make the positive claim that there is a missing link because then he's going to have to show the proof.
Exactly. Exactly.
Between what? Between what?
He doesn't even know what the proof is, I guess. My bad.
He's asking between what?
He
That's a
said
disingenuous question. Clearly, I explained between what. He's just, he's doing the thing. Yeah.
between the last ape. What's the last ape? Which was that? Are you talking about the common ancestor between us and someone else, or?
Buddy, you've proven you're in this disingenuous. I really don't want to talk with you anymore, so I'm disengaging with you.
Of response is kind of like I ask you a very simple question. Like you're just using the word ape is like kind of meaningless if you're not using it in like proper terminology.
I've said the word semantics like 5 times. That's your only rebuttal so far, is just to play word games. Now, if you want to say, hey, I still believe what I believe, then just go with that.
Can you
He's
acknowledge it as a
he could
belief?
he could try something else. Like I ask him questions. Can you define what an ape is? And he won't say it. How is that rhetorical? Like I'm literally asking him to define what he means. Like he's the one who is doing the rhetorical.
You
He
asked
could
him to
just say,
define that. You asked him to define
yeah,
intermediary step. You asked him to define ape. You
yeah.
asked him to define human. You had asked him to define time increment. You're just doing everything you can to play the semantic
Yeah,
game.
you're literally just playing semantics if you're doing that. Yeah.
But it's
to
okay,
define
man.
a
If you
single
believe in
point.
evolution, it's okay, man.
I don't need this that specific. Just even within like 500,000 years would be fine for me. I don't need to be that precise. But he
But you
can't
do
even do
believe in
that.
evolution, though.
Yes, I believe in that, but that's irrelevant to the question that I'm asking him. Like he
So
can't
you
answer
acknowledge
it.
it's just a belief?
No, it's not just a belief. I think it's supported by like mountains of evidence as well. But
Could you please provide that supporting evidence?
Yeah.
or okay, for evolution in general, or
Yes, you see what's happening is you're trying to play all these weird little gotcha games, but ironically, I mean, you believe in something that's absolutely insane. So if we challenge or deny your assertion,
At home. I'm asking you that's an at home.
That is, yeah, hold up, Witsit. That is the definition of gaslighting, because you're telling him what he believes is insane, which is trying to get him to be convinced that he's insane for believing it.
okay, no. Okay, I think evolution is insane. So you believe in something that is very I mean that the word literally is insane. So the belief itself is preposterous in my opinion. Let's say it is a very wild claim. Okay, you're making a claim about an insane amount of time, an insane amount of changes, as in a large amount. Okay, so you're making it very there's a better word for it. I just can't think of it. It's a very big claim. That's not the word, but okay. So if we challenge or deny your positive assertion that evolution is true, if you then proceed, and I'm not saying this would happen. I think I see came in with the argument. What I'm saying, if you were to say like, "Well, show me how it's not true, prove it's not true," or anything like that would just be shifting the burden. Right? There's no way for us to quote unquote prove evolution isn't true if it hasn't been verified in the first place. So like that's it's when I say an insane claim, I mean it's like a very uh wild claim. It's very like I don't know the word. It's like a really
It's
it's a
wild
very
according to you,
you
right?
know the
Because
context that I just explained though. It's like a very yeah, I don't know the word. I don't know the word.
outlandish.
I don't know what
There you
to.
go. There you go.
Yeah.
Outlandish. It's an outlandish claim.
Yeah.
It's
Could you
How
give me an
so?
example of what is outlandish?
what's up?
Like, pick some evidence that is evidence for evolution that you think is outlandish.
Why? See, this is what I'm saying. You're now immediately doing what I said. If I deny or challenge the assertion that evolution is real, like that's why I just
No,
asked. I thought this was just going to wrap up real quick, and you were just going to admit that it's a belief that you have. But you guys never can admit it's a belief. So you're making a claim
Witsit,
about millions of years, dude. Okay, so there you go.
you're not,
That's a part
you're
of it
not
that's
asked
outlandish.
to
That's the part
bring
that's
evidence that
outlandish.
evolution is flawed. You're asked to support the idea that this is to support this view that this is an outlandish idea in the first place. Because
Oh, it's the AK
when
guy. Of
when you
course you
just look at
interrupted.
it
Of course you
when you
interrupted. You're going
just
to
look at
interrupt the
it
whole
very
time.
rudimentary, then evolution is not all that outlandish because it's just the consequence of natural selection and adaptation, which both of which undeniably happen over really long periods of time. We know specification happens, and we know once specification happens, there's nothing that merges that once specification between two species happens. There's nothing that merges them
You
again,
interrupted
so
me
they
to
go different
monologue.
paths. Oh,
What is
you
wrong
didn't
with you?
monologue, but I did now.
You interrupted me to monologue. So you didn't even know what I was
Okay,
saying.
so you were not monologuing
It's
then.
not your turn to talk again.
But
So
you were not monologuing though. Were you or were you not monologuing?
No.
Because I was talking less amount of time than you were before.
No, I wasn't even 20 seconds in. Someone asked me what was outlandish
Oh
about
no,
it.
you talked for longer.
Oh, this guy sucks, bro.
Totally sucks.
Can we get concise and make points? God, come on.
Wasn't I
Yes.
trying to make the point, Left Lane? Why do you always jump in and say stuff like that
There
when
you go.
know?
There you go again. There you go. There you go.
Do
Now
you see
make
how
the
everyone
point.
everyone
Why
just
is
gets to interrupt
evolution
Austin?
outlandish in the
If
first
Witsit's
place?
talking, it's
Hold
okay
up,
to
you
interrupt
guys.
him.
You guys, let's just slow it down for a second. All right, so a guy, you did kind of go off onto a tangent that was a bit of a monologue. So it just seemed like you were not talking
I
directly.
was
haven't said
AK.
anything.
It
I
was
haven't
AK.
said anything. I've been
That was
quiet for the
AK.
last 10 minutes.
It was AK. But the point, someone asked me why I thought it was outlandish, and then like 10 seconds in, AK just walked all over me. And then Left Lane acted he didn't see it, and then just acts like somehow it's a vague statement about it. Whatever. He does that every time. So it's very simple.
Explain why.
It's an outlandish claim because you are claiming to know something that occurred over millions of years.
That's
On
a
its
straw man.
face, on its face right there, you're claiming to know something that's completely unfalsifiable, requires the presupposition of the needed timeline itself, and you're making a claim that is outlandish. Okay? So if you want to
Nope, that's a
verify
straw
it,
man.
that's cool.
Okay, wasn't a guy speak? Hold on, AK, just hold on for a second. A guy, are you still there?
Yes.
All right, yeah.
Do you see my point, A guy? That it's such a long time frame. Like the belief of evolution requires like believing in something from so long ago that can't be verified. Like it has to be a belief intrinsically.
Verifying it, but the fossil records, the age of them are defined by we know that like the rates of something, how they decay, etc. Certain material, how they occur and how old they will. Like for example, when you have, I think it's like argon, potassium, or something like that. They occur from volcanic eruption, for example, and they lay out in layers. They will decay into certain other. I think it's potassium will decay into argon, and that is a rate we know currently how fast they do. It's I think I'm not sure why you would make an assumption that they would decay differently in the past. For me, it needs to be justified in some way or another. I'm not sure why we wouldn't assume that they are decaying at that certain rate.
Okay, it's been proven in a lab that they can decay at extremely different rates just by being in the presence of strong electrical forces or extreme temperature changes. So
Why would there be
you see how
extreme
you're
temperature
shifting the
changes?
burden again. You're making a claim that you know where different elements came from and how long they've been on the earth and that it's millions of years. And then I'm pointing out that's automatically a belief that you have. And then you're like, no, prove my belief wrong. No, it's just a belief. It's a belief that can't be verified. It's shifting the burden of proof. If we deny or challenge your belief that can't be tested, I don't have to prove anything. It's an insane claim. I just pointed out specifically how you have to assume a specific decay rate and the actual source of it, and it's been proven that decay rates can change with naturally occurring input. And you're just like the evolutionist always just moves the goalposts, like they didn't hear that that's a fact. It's a fact that they change it. The decay rate changes.
They change, but they don't change by much. Like
No, they
comparable
change a
to like
ton.
how.
They can change a ton.
Oh, they don't.
Yes, they absolutely do.
No.
Okay, so first of all,
It's very
first your claim was that they
predictive.
don't change, and now it's that they don't change much. Is that right?
Don't change much.
Do they
You
change
were
or do they
making
not
the
change
claim
much?
that they do change by massive amounts. Can you substantiate that?
Yes, it's been done in the lab. I'll drop the sources in a second, but this just goes to show the truth is, right? The average evolutionist, they've never even looked into that. They've never even looked into the counter argument against the aging. Before we even get into all these claims about what you think species would do, you have to have an insanely big timeline. It's required as the prerequisite, right? And then that right there just requires a belief that can't be verified. That we've shown that naturally occurring input changes the decay rate. And you would also know that, of course, that compounds over time. Right? So if the isotope structure changes at any point in time, the whole decay rate gets thrown off. So yeah, that even if
It's
it
an
was a
error
small
margin.
change
Yeah.
in the case of billions of years or millions of years, that would be a major change in the dating process.
How much would the decay rate change?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting because again, we're supposed to specify to you why your belief that can't be substantiated is wrong. It's just a shifting the burden of proof fallacy, and that's what evolutionists almost always rely on. But this is what has been shown. Whenever people take it to these labs that are giving you the claimed evidence of how old things are, and they give them something that's known to be younger, they are off by hundreds of thousands of years. The lab results come back to say anywhere from 300,000 to 3 million. You guys are so sure about exactly how long everything's been here that when we ask you to test a rock using the same method, you give us ranges of 300,000 to 3 million years, and then have the excuse of younger rocks are hard to date, meaning there could be a whole bunch of young rocks that you're just wrong about, claiming that they're way older. It is just a belief.
It depends on the type of system. For example, for much younger, they use like carbon dating. But for really old ones, like they obviously that's creating a larger difference. Like if it was existing 60 million years ago or 65 million years ago, obviously that's going to be a huge difference. But as far as I know, they don't only use that; they also use like the layers that are found in, etc. So yeah, if there's like a
Okay.
known, if it's like a, let's say you have like different layers of different events that have happened in the area that they know of, they might have found they might have used argon dating, for example, at this other place as well.
Okay.
So
I
that
want you
could
to
be
pay
used to
attention.
like back it up, right?
I
But
want you to pay.
I could read some assumption on carbon dating that
Oh, wait. You
they
just made a bunch of claims, though.
use.
Let's address the claims you made because they're not true or that they require major assumptions. So I want you to pay attention to how much you move the goalposts. And then I want you to think this is for you yourself, like, wait a minute, I was this confident in all of these claims, and then they're going to get chiseled away one by one. And I'm going to keep moving the goalposts. And then you should then ask yourself, well, then what's my motivation to believe in this, even though what I previously thought to be true is going to be demonstrated to not be true? Because that's what's going to happen. It's already started to happen. Where first it was, we know how old it is, we know the decay rate, and they can't change. And it was like, oh, well, sure, they can change some. Well, of course, if they change just a little bit, and then you extend it over the course of millions of years, then that's going to change the date drastically. But you invoked you invoked the layers. You know that they're first. You said something about carbon dating, and I was pointing out that no, the younger rocks, right? So yeah, carbon dating is supposedly accurate up to like 50,000 years, and then they do different types of dating outside of that, like radiometric dating. And what I was pointing out to you is when they give these labs rocks that are really young, they use the other type of dating and come back with insane numbers, like hundreds of thousands or millions of years. And then they're shown, no, that we know that rock's way younger than that, right? And then they say, oh, well, it's hard to test young rocks, meaning that sometimes the rock may be way younger and our testing will give us these really old numbers anyway, depending on how we presuppose the elemental structure going into it and what dating we use. And so that means that all these different rocks and elements that you're claiming are really old could just be really young. And the only way that we know that is that people went and paid to have the lab test the rocks without them knowing the ages. And then people cope with that saying it was dishonest for those. No, it's dishonest for people to claim they know when in fact the truth is that they don't, right? But then you invoke the layers of the earth, and there's something called the great unconformity.
Hold on, before you go on to that though, that is fucked up what they do with the testing. Like if this is some chemical process they're doing in a lab with chemicals and chemistry and shit, there shouldn't be no questions. Don't worry about where I found this. How old do I think it is? What do I think? You know what I mean? Don't ask me no questions. Just do your There's a questionnaire when you bring that stuff in. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
exactly. So what do you think about that? Okay, let's do it one at a time, because what that means is that
to say the assumptions that they use.
Yeah. For example, the questionnaire asks you where you found it and stuff like that. Because then what they do is they look at their geological model and they start to fill in all kinds of important data before they then proceed to quote unquote age it, which means it requires a bunch of presuppositions of a model, right? Before they even allegedly date it. So when people bring it in and don't tell them all the information, they come back with huge ranges of years, like 300,000 to 3.5 million. And then they're like, no, we know this is only a few decades old. And they say, oh, well, sometimes young rocks are hard to test. So do you see how this is nothing anywhere close to science? It's a belief, requires presupposition.
You see how we went
Assumption?
tactically from talking about evolution? See how they do it? Now they brought you to the minutia of
No, I
dating
did
a
this.
rock. Yeah.
I did this.
Oh, you did
It's,
this? Okay.
Yeah, but the prerequisite for evolution is age. What I think is that everyone grants them all these egregious presuppositions that show how outlandish the belief is, and then start talking about the minutia of evolution. When what I think is you can't even invoke evolution without millions and millions and millions of years. Everyone that believes in evolution, let's be real, they almost all believe in abiogenesis as well, because it's perceived as an alternative to a creator. And so you actually need billions of years. So before we can even get into the discussion about what species would or wouldn't do over that long, you need to substantiate you even had that long to make the claim in the first place.
Yeah,
Right?
Decay
definitely
rates are
fine.
still sufficient for that. Your
just want to
sources
say,
that say that decay rates vary do not at all topple that.
Just baseless hand wave dismissal. So, do you agree? Do you agree that it's obviously going to require presuppositions if you have to go in there with a questionnaire, and then what they do is they say, "Oh, well, you found it in this location at this depth. There are these things around it. Let's run it through our computer models, our geoid models, or geological models, and then we'll start to fill in different variables, presupposing them." And then we assume it's older. We pick out which type of dating that we're going to do. We assume that the decay rate has been completely consistent the entire time, and then we're going to speculate about how old it is based on those variables. And then when people tested that by giving them younger rocks, they were off by huge spans, proving that something can be younger at some of the most prestigious labs that do this, proving that something can be younger, and they can run it through their little presupposed pseudoscience models and get
And you
millions of
give
years.
sources for that as well. Again, because a lot of the things that you claim are proven and are shown are quite dishonest. just like with the decay rate
Poisoning
fluctuation
the
that
well.
you said, like it varies by huge amounts with conditions that we would expect to with variations of conditions that we would expect to happen. And no, it doesn't vary by huge amounts. No, it's not even confirmed that it does vary that much. That does vary. And no, it doesn't vary over the range of conditions that we would expect to happen either.
You're making
So,
okay, so you're making the
if you
first
actually
principle.
read
You
the
just all you
sources
did was
that you use
poison the
to
well.
substantiate,
All you did was poison the well, right? And say that normally I do something to preemptively discredit my information to the audience called poisoning the well, right? Anyway, you're saying two claims at once. You're trying to set up a barrier between you and falsifiability, right? That's what you're doing, and you're saying no, it's never been shown that they change. And then you turned around and said, and no, it doesn't change much. Which one is it? Does it change or does it not change? Because if you're saying it doesn't change much, then you're saying it changes. But right before that, you said it doesn't change, right? And I will happily give you all the information for this, but I want the main point to be addressed. Let's even introduce a hypothetical preface, meaning that I'm going to start my point with a hypothetical if. Therefore, it just ensures good faith if we just interact in good faith. If I take a rock that I know is much younger, right? It's young. It was created recently, and then I give it to one of these prestigious labs that claim to be able to date the rocks, and they run it through their methods, and they come back with an answer of 300,000 to 3 million years. Or if I send the same rock sample to two labs and one says 300,000, one says 3 million, and then we point out, no, we know that this rock's only a few decades old. Do you agree that would show that the alleged dating method is flawed?
The answer is yes. Now, the thing is, this shift of questioning, right, took us away from my argument, which was what they claim we evolved from, the last ape. There is no intermediary species to show for, right? So we can talk about how rocks and which is important, the aging, but the fact is that single point, I'm not even talking about one animal changing into another. In our evolutionary thing that they say, there isn't even a missing link between the last ape and us. That's what the point I was trying to make.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. I sat back and listened for a minute, and they weren't
So
addressing it.
I just wanted to say I'm trying to say something for the last 30 minutes. So the assumption that are made for the AR potassium decay rate is they like from the parent nuclei, the potassium, they use potassium argon decay. They use it is assumed that the decay rate is independent of its physical state, and it's not affected by difference in pressure or temperature. This is a well-founded major assumption common to all dating methods based on radioactive decay. Although changes in electron-captured partial decay is constant for potassium, it might change at like very high pressures. But theoretical calculations indicate that for pressure experienced within the body size of the Earth, the effects are negligible and small.
There you go. So
Yeah.
you just admitted that you have to invoke a presupposed model, claim to know the limits of what can happen inside the Earth, that you can only go 8 miles down, and you can't even make accurate predictions about those 8 miles. They've all been disproven. Just like I
8
said,
miles down, we don't
just
find
like I
fossils
said,
8 miles
just
down.
like I said, it
But
requires you invoking a geological model with all kinds of presuppositions. And not to mention, you then flood in pseudoscientific atomic theory and interpretations of what this subatomic particle, quote unquote, phenomena is and how it works and what its limits are to then tell us what is or isn't possible. And conveniently, your models just so happen to always say, oh, yes, we know our dating has to be accurate. When in a lab, it has been shown that they can be drastically changed.
can
Now you
you
guys are getting more.
substantiate
I'm
that
almost
claim?
done, AK. Now you guys are getting more towards what your argument actually is, because I've been through this with many people. And when you point out that it absolutely does change, the argument switches real quick from it doesn't change and it only barely changes to, oh, well, what's required to make it change wouldn't happen in the earth. So you're moving the goalpost.
It does happen, but the pressure where we find fossils are not large enough to have like a noticeable change. That's why they say it's negligible and small.
So you agree you're
So
moving the
it's
goalpost.
based on. I'm not moving the goalpost. I'm only talking about potassium argon radio decay. I don't know why you're saying I'm moving the goalpost.
Yeah, how can the
Because
person
first
presenting
the
evidence,
claim-
you're
first
asking
the
for
claim-
evidence, the evidence is presented, and you say the person that's presenting the evidence is moving the goalpost. That
So
doesn't make sense.
that's a nice little mischaracterization. I'm absolutely shocked Left Lane jumped in and mischaracterized what happened. I've never seen that happen before. So what actually happened was they said that it doesn't change. They said the decay rate doesn't change, period. They both said it. They both said it confidently and repeatedly. I then pointed out that's not true. It's actually been proven that they changed. And then they moved
it's not.
the goalpost to say, oh, it doesn't change much. Then I'm pointing out that it absolutely does change much. It can be changed a ton in a lab. It's
No, you
been
did
done.
not. You didn't substantiate that.
It's objectively been done. I will send all of the articles. Yeah, no problem. So it's been done.
Yeah,
and then what
I read
happened?
through the articles
Shut
that
up,
you used
AK.
in the
Stop
past.
doing that,
Substantiate that. So
dude. So you move the goalpost.
they
from it
contradict
doesn't
what you're
change.
saying.
You said it doesn't
Your own
change.
sources contradict.
I get you're getting emotionally triggered. You said it doesn't change. Then I pointed out it does change. It's been proven that it changes. Move the goalpost to it doesn't change much. Pointing out that's not true. It has been changed a lot. And then they move the goalpost to, oh, but what is required to make it change a lot in the lab wouldn't happen in the earth, which means you did objectively move the goalpost. And that is actually your answer because I've researched this and talked to many people. The argument is that what's required to make the decay rates change a lot wouldn't happen on the earth based on our geological models, that those pressure and temperature and electrical conditions wouldn't be met, wouldn't be satisfied within the geological model that we have, so that we can just safely throw it away and disregard it as a possibility. And then we can assume that the parent isotope relationship remains the same. We can assume what it was at the beginning, and we can assume that it's consistent and ignore the possibility of it changing. So that's moving the goalpost, Left Lane.
Okay, yeah, I don't know, man. You do all these interim debate recaps of where you go on these 5-minute monologues and recapping and supporting your point, and it's like it's not even a debate. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Again, Left Lane only ever has color commentary to try to dismiss the argument. That's all you have. So just don't jump in if that's all you're going to do. You accused me of saying that I asked for evidence, then he gave evidence, and then I just said that he moved the goalpost. So then I had to recap it to rebut your mischaracterization of what happened. Then instead of addressing that I just proved what you said wrong, you just complained again about how I had to recap it. Hey, guy, do you understand that that's just moving the goalpost and it requires presuppositions, and that the claim that it doesn't change and it doesn't change much has been proven incorrect, and that your claim requires saying, yeah, it can change a lot, but if we presuppose our geological model, we presuppose the parent isotope relationship at the beginning, and we presuppose a consistent decay rate by presupposing that those conditions can never be met inside the earth, then we can assume that the data is
Just stop
accurate.
talking. You can just stop talking like 5 minutes ago. I disagree with everything you said there. Like you didn't have to bloviate everything you said there after making a point. The point there is that I never said that it never changes. You never asked me, does it never change? You asked, I pointed out that this is a precise method, and then you say, but it shows that it changed in the lab. And I said, well, it doesn't change by a lot. It doesn't change by this huge amount. That's why it produces an error margin, at least I said. That's what I said.
No, you said
So
it's
I don't
recorded.
know.
This is recorded.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you said it doesn't change. I then pushed back and said, yes, in a lab it's been proven it does change. You said, well, it doesn't change much. Then I pushed back against that's not true. It can change quite a bit. And now the new argument is, oh, but what's required to make it change significantly wouldn't happen on the Earth. Those conditions wouldn't be met inside the Earth. So you are
Yeah.
moving the
So
goalpost.
therefore, it's not changing. Wouldn't that mean that it's not changing by a lot? It's negligible.
You said it can't change, and it can't change by a lot. And then I corrected you. It's already been scientifically proven that it can. So now the new argument is, oh, sure, it can change a lot, and we can replicate it in a lab. But I know that what happens in the
For
Earth could never replicate what we do in a lab.
He
Suppose,
never
for
said
example,
can't. I didn't
if
hear
you
him say
if
can't
you
change.
He literally did.
yeah if you for example expose if you expose the fossil area to air, for example, you would contaminate it. So obviously those things will affect it. But I'm talking about like the decay rate specifically. If you have like a controlled area where you know the variables, then those are like the assumptions that are made for when you're doing the measurements. But that's not
Okay.
like it doesn't disqualify it just because there are assumptions that are made. If they are justified, and the justifications are that these areas have been like closed by like a layer of dirt and shit, like ground. It's covered, right? And it's
Yeah.
not like high pressure. It's not high pressure. You're like these fossils aren't like kilometers down in the ground. They're like very surface level. They've always been. So I
Oh,
don't know why you would
they've
say
always
it's
been.
high pressure. Yeah,
Really? Well, I thought you guys
yeah.
claimed that. I thought you guys claimed that you guys claimed that there are tons of layers that are on top of them, and that a bunch of the layers got removed. This is why I brought up that great unconformity. Okay, so this is what I'm
Not
saying.
eight miles down.
What
We're
it
talking about
is
eight
you've
miles
learned a
down,
lot of the
right?
talking points about evolution. You believe it. You don't want to acknowledge it's a belief. So when we start getting into the details of how it is a belief, and I start pointing out the information that they're not going to tell you when they want you to believe it, you just have to find a way to dismiss it. There's something called the great unconformity, right? In certain areas of the earth, there's almost 2 billion years of missing layers. There's a whole area across the whole earth that doesn't match the presupposed timing of the geological model. It's called the great unconformity. Yeah. So you have to ignore that to even begin to make your claim. Then you have to ignore that. You make tons of presuppositions to make your claim. You have to ignore that you assume the initial parent isotope relationship. You have to assume the decay rate's consistent, though it's been proven that that isn't true. It can absolutely change, right? And then you have to ignore that we tested it by taking younger rocks and giving it to these labs using the very method you're invoking, and they all came back with grossly different ages. 300,000 years and then 3 million in another lab, same rock sample. So that doesn't that prove that your method is incorrect?
Proves that there needs to be more work done on these methodologies because there might be some unknowns. Like I know with the great unconformities, there have been proposed like solutions where there could be for example, like a global cold area where the whole Earth was covered like in ice or snow for some period that could have grinded away a certain type of sedimentary rock. There are like different solutions, but like if you look on other parts of sedimentary layers, they are perfectly fitting the. So like I wouldn't say like you just ignore like throwing away everything because there are like parts of it which are where there are great unknowns, where the gaps are found, right? I don't
Okay,
see
well
why
that's
you
the
would
point.
throw
It's
out
a belief.
everything from that, right?
That's the whole point. I asked you to just at the beginning just acknowledge that it's a belief, and you can't say it's a belief because people actually think that this is an alternative to belief, right? And ironically, no, it's absolutely a belief. You have to believe in, well, some guy came with an idea that there was a ice layer, which doesn't work, by the way. You should read the papers debunking that claim. That doesn't work even if it was true, which it's not, it's been debunked. Even if it was true, because you have other areas that have greater missing portions of sedimentary layer. So then it couldn't just be the whole Earth got cold, because there are areas with, oh, there used to be a glacier in the Grand Canyon. Like, they'll just make up random stories. It's just like cosmology that have no evidence, and you have to just blindly believe all of them to even begin to make your claim. Therefore, it has to be a belief. And every time I ask you about how they took a rock sample that was really young and they sent it to a couple labs that used this very dating method, and they were both incredibly wrong, and they both gave dates that were incredibly different, then people run around saying, oh no, we can take a rock and put it in a lab and know exactly how old it is. But in reality, you can't, because when we tested that,
Yeah,
you guys failed miserably. Wouldn't that prove
you
your
can.
dating method is flawed?
No, I don't know anything about the methodology use the person who did what you said, right? But because you didn't provide like details who did it, but I know that this when they do this measurements, it has to be like under very controlled environments, and when they are exposed, you need to know how long they have been exposed, etc., because it will like gather like argon from our atmosphere right now, for example. So I know that they have to yeah, it needs to be like under controlled. So I mean, I'm not gonna hand wave dismiss what you said, but you have a, like but I know that you can't just put it into a machine and then you get the date. I know that much.
You're just saying we have to
Uh,
make more presuppositions. Like, it's crazy that you don't realize that you have a belief that requires tons of presupposition. If you want to believe it, that's fine. I don't like to argue about people's beliefs. The point is that you guys try to present it like it's not a belief, or you try to say, no, there's so much evidence that it's an extremely justified belief, right? And most of you won't even say that. The only
I
reason
did
that you'll
say
say
that
that is you'll
earlier.
use the semantical
I did say
argument.
that earlier. I did
Yes,
say
but
it was justified
yes,
by
but you'll
mountains of evidence.
yeah, but then what you guys do is you'll say that everything can only be a justified belief. And so it's as strong as to being known, it's as close to being known as possibly can be. So it's just a game.
Like, that's a straw. I don't know why you have to like make strawmans of me. You consistently say what I then you say, and then you say something that I never said.
No,
So
fair
I don't
enough.
know
Yeah.
why you do that all the time.
No, I said a generalized
But
statement. That's fine.
I don't know why you're saying it's just a belief, and I obviously presented the evidence many, many times. Obviously, I have justification for what I'm saying, so I don't know why you have to act like I don't have evidence.
But I
Like
just pointed out that
I
what you're calling. You notice that you pause like 7 seconds, bro. Like, you point out what you're claiming is evidence, right? We've just
yeah,
pointed out is flooded with presuppositions. It's flooded with presuppositions. Okay. And every time we point out how your claim was wrong, you move the goalpost. Now it's like, oh, the labs were off. One lab got 300,000, one got like 3 million. And I even said, just use it as a hypothetical preface. You can't even concede in good faith. I'm like, just say hypothetically, if we took a rock and then we gave it to a lab that claims to do this testing, and then we gave the same rock sample or a rock sample from right beside it to another lab that claims to do this testing. And one of them gave us 300,000 years, and one of them gave us 3 million years. And we know the rock to be nowhere close to that old in either scenario, only a few decades old. Don't you agree that would show a flaw in your dating method?
yes. If you say it's like a huge flaw in it, then I would say yes. Then it's a huge flaw in it. I am skeptic of your, because when I try to find the like some sources where there are problems with argon dating sorry, potassium argon dating methods, I found that like it requires there to be, for example, like you can't have, they look for argon in the substance. Argon is a gas, so if the gas leaks out, you have a problem. That's a problem that they need to be sure that argon isn't leaking out of the fossil. Um,
But dude, if the argon leaks out the same in each situation, then why would one lab get 300,000 and one get 3 million? Like, this is the facts. What happens is these institutions, they claim to go get rock samples and they claim years, and then everyone just kind of tries to understand and memorize the claimed method, and they think they know it's real. But what happens in reality is we go and test these people and pay them to do their job, and then they fail miserably. And then the truth comes out and they say, oh, well, there's like this long list of things that can make us mess up. So for one, if they're younger rocks, sometimes we'll misinterpret them as really, really, really old. If there's some type of contamination, that could really throw everything off. If it was in contact with water when it was underneath the earth, that could really throw everything off as well. Right? So like then we get the emperor has no clothes. We see that actually there's this long list of things that you guys have to presuppose did or didn't happen before you even try to date it.
It's better if you have this. That's what I said earlier, right? If they got multiple fossil records from different layers, like the layers will form uniformly over the area, and then when you find these different layers, when you find them in the rock formations, you can take dating from different places, so you can be more certain about your measurement, for example. So that's what they will do, for example, to be more certain about the dating. Obviously, there's always a risk of there being an error. But
No, but what?
yeah,
Dude, 300,000 to 3 million isn't just like something that you can dismiss as
I
some
know you,
small little error.
I know you say that, but like I have no idea what experiment you're talking about.
But you agree that if that's true, that's a huge error.
Yeah, if that's
dude,
true, then that's a
we're
big
talking
error.
about
But
carbon dating, right? All right,
no.
my bad.
So if that's true,
Okay.
What kind of
you would
what kind
agree?
of dating are we talking about?
It's like radiometric dating. Like carbon dating supposedly only goes up to 50,000 years. And
Radiometric.
yeah. If the carbon dating goes
But
up to like 50,000.
is that paper been like published in like a reputable source that that has been like reviewed and shit like that?
Yeah, let me go ahead and get ahead of this. So
Yeah.
what happens every time whenever we start to show the people the evidence, what they do is they use a genetic fallacy, which they say that because of the source of the information, it can be dismissed. And the reason that they say that, which is a fallacy, the evidence is the evidence, right? Like it has the official stamp from the labs, the official rock site. Like you can prove that absolutely the actual labs tested it, right? But they'll be like, oh, this person is a creationist. And because it was published through a creationist publication, it can be dismissed. And then they'll say because they have a bias, as if their side doesn't have a bias. And we just proved that you absolutely do, right? You have like 20 different presuppositions we're supposed to just grant you. Do you agree that it doesn't matter if the person that ran this test on those labs believe in God or not, right? Like that it doesn't matter what the source of the information is.
Yeah, but there are like several hundred of labs who do this kind of work all over the earth. If one institution is doing this kind of measurement, but it's not supported by 300 other institutions, you understand why I have to be skeptic of your source, right? I won't like just eat it raw and just accept it.
No, that's fine. I'm actually just trying to even make a logical point here. So there's a few logical points here. One logical point that always gets overlooked is even if the stuff was old, right? Like it doesn't mean that it's been here that long. Meaning if something is created, it could be created with age, right? Just like the story goes that Adam was created. He wasn't created a baby. Something could be created with age, right? So that's one major thing that people just never even talk about, which is like, even if you could substantiate that this stuff was that old, it doesn't mean that it's actually been here that long. It could have been put here old, okay? And there's no way to rebut
Yeah,
that.
think of I like to use this analogy a lot. Like, pretend there's a hardware store, like Lowe's or something, Home Depot, and they just have this wood that's been sitting in their warehouse for 100,000 years. And then I go buy some of that lumber, put it on my property, build a shed with it. Somebody comes by and they're like, "Oh shit, this shed's been here for 100,000 years. We dated the wood." You know what I'm saying? It could have just. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, but like
God could have used
that is
material that he had left over or something.
But Yeah, okay. So I think when you start talking about something being older than what it seems, to me that seems like a very ad hoc explanation, because as far as I know, nobody has seen anything being born or being created that is already old. Everything that we create are created as they are with the current date, and with the dating method that we know of, they have the date that they have, which is current, right?
No, that's not
I
right. That's not right. No. So like with certain conditions, we have like incredibly like precise instruments now, right? If you try to synthetically create some type of element, right, you can do so with certain conditions that have like a different place in the timeline of decay rate, right? Like even though it was literally just now made in a lab, right? If you were to try to go and check the decay rate, then it would tell you that it's way older. This is where a lot of the studies came from, that they found that you can artificially manipulate the decay rate. Not only the decay rate, but the place in which the part of the timeline it's in. But this is the excuse from your side, dude. It's like, yeah, but the way that that works is, and then they invoke their subatomic model. They tell us about electron shells and everything they think's going on. And they say, that the conditions required to do this, like we're doing it in a lab, those don't exist in the Earth. It's like, what, dude?
Yeah,
The
but
Earth is crazy, bro. We went eight
yeah.
miles down. We went 8 miles down, and our entire geological model was wrong the whole way, and we've never even gone deeper than that. So how do you guys know what happens in the Earth? That's insane.
Yeah. But in this case, you're assuming that there was somebody who was fuddling the number so they looked like they were old when they weren't really old, and they also placed them in the correct layers in the age that they were supposed to be placed where, right? To me,
What?
that sounds
well,
pretty
the
suspicious.
timeline is just part of your problem, right? That
They're
what you
not.
guys have been discussing now for the past hour is just part of the problem. The real problem is in the fossil record. Example, fossils in a transitionary state. That is your real problem. You have no evidence of that. You can talk about the timeline all day long, but your real problem is in the bones, in the skeletons, and in the fossils. You have no evidence of evolution.
Can I ask something? This is what I don't even fucking.
Okay.
I really don't understand how the fuck you can get a decay rate of argon or whatever fucking type of element. Like, let's say the decay rate's 4.5 billion years old or whatever the fuck. How do you know that?
It's
How do
a
you know that
halving
this?
rate. It's always
So it's
decaying. If you
math.
got like it's a halving rate. It doesn't mean that there are if it doesn't mean that you have to wait a billion years to see some decay. You will see decay all the time. It's just a halving rate. After this amount of time, half of it would have decayed.
Yeah, but you'd have to know what the full amount was to begin with to even start that,
Exactly.
though.
You're presupposing that was like what the decay rate. Like you're presupposing what it started with, which is what Witsit was saying. You don't know if something has already just been created with age, because we weren't there 4.5 billion years ago.
Would the decay rate change, or could you observe decay rate and then extrapolate that out?
Well, he just said the decay rate does change.
Yeah, you can make it change in a lab. If this is the difference, the main ideological difference here is there's one side that thinks that humans are superior to everything else, and the stuff that we can do in a lab is so incredible that like it can never happen in the earth naturally. And I think that they can figure out what everything is and how everything works and all stuff. They put a lot of faith in our current understanding and labs and stuff like that. The other side's like, oh, we're just scratching the surface trying to figure out what all this place is capable of. And we've just now began to figure out that actually you can change the decay rate, which means that for decades, the people that claimed that you couldn't were wrong. We proved them wrong. But instead of being like, damn, we were super cocky about how we knew how old everything was for decades, turns out we were wrong because the decay rate can change. They pretend that those decades never happened and just move to the new position and say it with the same amount of confidence. Okay, so there's
Well,
an
I don't think
ideological difference.
I don't think anybody claimed that it will never change under conditions that we are here on Earth. They are quite predictable. It's very certain what they would be. We know what it will be if they are like under pressure or different temperature, but it's not like it's going to change wildly. We know like approximately what the temperature has been, and we know approximately what the pressure is. Like it hasn't changed wildly.
Can
So
you
that's
address like the two primary things that we're saying? One is say that it like we have certain dating methods that we can't even really test like that. We can't really test them. Like there is no way to know definitively that this rock is 1,000,000 years old and look, the test matches. There's no way to even test it. There's no standard against which to even verify it, right? And then say that this dating method gives us a certain age. There's also no way to verify that when it was first here, say if it was created, which you guys have to invoke, it was created anyway. That's what abiogenesis says.
yeah.
So like
I think your wording verification means something else to you than it means to me. Verification doesn't mean that I have to literally watch a rock decay for 1,000,000 years for me to verify it. I would be able to verify it by putting something in a lab and then watch the substance perform decay under controlled conditions for a short amount of time. And looking at the pattern, I could extrapolate that over longer time.
Yeah, that's right. So
For
you
me, that's sufficient. I
extrapolate
don't
via
need
presupposition. Okay. So my point is
not
that
presupposition assumptions. They are different.
okay, well actually when you go into dating it, you're presupposing that the parent isotope relationship was a specific thing, and you're presupposing that the decay rate has been exactly the same the whole time. That
I
absolutely
think
is a
it's like, I think it's either like, some of these things have to be extrapolated. We have to make guess, to the best of our knowledge type claims, or just put it down and forget it. We can't know anything. I mean, what are your options?
Oh, your options are simple. It's admit that it's a belief that you have that requires extrapolation and presupposition. Admit that it's a belief that's unfalsifiable. But those
I
words
don't
like
I
see
mean,
it.
trigger
that's a
you guys. You
huge
can't
leap.
say it.
That's a huge leap saying we just because we can't know if these rocks are 4 billion years old, then we can't know anything. I mean, that's crazy. Doesn't even make sense. Oh,
I'd rather not bullshit myself, Left Lane. How's that? I'd rather not just bullshit myself. That's way
Well,
better.
I don't think that it is necessarily bullshit that you can observe things within our time and a process that's happening and potentially extrapolate that back to make a best guess of what happened 1,000,000 years ago. I don't see anything wrong with that.
That geological column they came up with way before any of this. These dating rocks that they claim. I forget the exact date, but it's way before. And so anything they pull out their arse that doesn't match this geologic column, they just throw away.
Well, I think to say that saying that it's wrong and that it doesn't work and that we can't do it is like a pre-assumption that we can't do it. I mean,
What?
yeah, it's like, how do you know that it can't be done? How do you know it's wrong? Or you just don't want to guess at it, or it's kind of up in the air. There's nothing definite about it.
But wait, look, this is how this all
yeah, it's like
started.
you're
This is how this all started. I asked if it was a belief, right? And then people, when the side that normally defends this, if you ask them to admit that it's a belief, right, they won't do it. They have to they pretend that we know it for basically a fact, as much of a fact as we could know. And then
We presented the evidence.
well, dude, just a second. And then I pointed out to
Okay.
him, right, like, bro, if we challenge or deny the positive assertion being made, right? It's a shifting the burden of proof fallacy to turn around and say, prove it's not wrong. Like, because the reason that that's a fallacy is that doesn't even make any sense and it's an impossible task. If you're making a claim that hasn't been verified, how can I can't be expected to have to disprove it. It hasn't been proven, right? It's called a shifting the burden of proof fallacy. We're just denying or challenging the positive claim being made. And by the way, it's an outlandish claim. it's a very big claim, right? So
Oh, you're presenting evidence, right? You haven't posted it yet, but you presented evidence that's saying the argon potassium method is unreliable. That's what you presented, and in like for me at least in the real world in science, it's not definite. You don't like using the word. I don't like using the word debunk or bunked or whatever you want to use, right? Just saying it's a belief. It's like obviously everybody require to believe something. To like I require like I can't know something without believing it in the first place. But I would also claim that I need justification for it. Otherwise, I would just be like a dogma. I would just believe it without any other reason.
do you remember
Right?
whenever
So
I made the point that you guys conflate those things, and then you said I was straw manning you? Remember that? Remember I said what always happens is we point out that it's a belief. You guys say justified belief, and that you can't know anything without belief, as if it somehow means that all levels of belief are the same, right?
no,
Like if, and then you said I was straw manning you, and then you just went on to
yeah.
say the same thing
Well,
that I
I
said
think
you were
I
going
think he was saying there's a difference between belief and acceptance. So belief is like religion belief, or accepting the evidence is you believe that evidence, but it's not like it's a belief like religion. They're not synonymous. It's a little different. It's more of an acceptance.
What?
And
Religions
this
could
is
say they
that's
have evidence that support their claim as well.
Sonic.
Like
Yeah,
obviously, I
but
can say I have evidence for a creator, and I will still admit that like to believe in any type of specific creator requires belief, and I have plenty of evidence that there's a creator. So
Yeah.
that's non sequitur.
yeah, this
So
is about knowing something 100% or not.
not really.
You know what I mean? Like there's things
Not
we
a
can
non
know
sequitur.
yeah.
Sorry.
Relax. There's things we
Yeah.
can know. Hold on, man. Hold on. There's things we can know 100%, no question. This ain't one of them. We don't have to just because we don't know if the rock's 4 billion years old. We don't have to give up everything else that we know about the world. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Witsit's talking about. Like you guys always say, like, well, a lot of you do, maybe not all of you, but a lot of you guys say, well, we can only know things to a certain probability, right? 99.999%. So there's always a chance for anything.
No, we have evidence for gravity and things, but we don't. It's not like a belief system. There's a lot of evidence for it, and I don't know about evidence for God. That's more circumstantial. Like we can't believe that there's all these probabilities that we have existed here on Earth with all these complexities of our beings and our environment. That just seems impossible. So we say God.
But you can't rule it out, right, Zanik? You can't rule out that there isn't a God either, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so you find yourself in a troubling predicament because now you're saying we live in a God world and a not God world at the same
He
time.
doesn't
This
know.
is illogical.
No, they're just saying they don't. They're just saying they don't know. That's all. Like he doesn't know. They don't know. When they say they're 99.9% sure of something, they don't know.
That doesn't say he doesn't know.
Yeah, but
Doesn't
you
know
know it's a dishonest tactic intellectually, because, and I'm not putting ill intent on anyone. Don't be triggered. I'm saying like the way that everyone taught you guys and taught us how to go about this is actually intellectually dishonest. So whenever something's pointed out to be fallacious or like the flaws in certain presuppositions, the response is, oh, well, you can't know anything for sure, as if there's not a spectrum of validity and evidence, right? Like that's always used as a way to justify that you can't actually definitively show it, or that requires a lot of assumptions. You try to then conflate that to, well, everything is like that. No. There's obviously levels to this. There's obviously a spectrum here, right?
That's a little projection, because we have the evidence and we start talking about it. And as soon as you find a small flaw, like, oh, this particular measurement had an error, so the whole thing's debunked. You use that word quite a bit, and he just mentioned that earlier to you, and I agree with him. You can't do that. Yeah, nothing is perfect, and then Jeremy also mentioned as well. But you say there's evidence for the creator. That's more of a stretch than the things we're doing that shows some pretty strong evidence, and we might find out.
Just said I projected. You said I projected. What I think that you absolutely can know things for sure. I think there's a spectrum of evidence and confidence in specific belief.
What do you
I think
know
there's
for
different types. There's different types of justification. There's physical, empirical, and empirical
give me an
being
example?
observable, repeatable, testable. There is obviously logical, right? So there, like, I didn't project anything.
I'm saying that you guys use
Kinda
that
did.
talking point that you like. Do you ever just listen in good faith? So then,
No,
if
because
you're
you
going to
never
respond,
give a space for someone to jump in. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, just it'd be cool if you respond to what I'm saying instead of what you've predetermined to say. So all I'm saying is please listen. It oftentimes the saying, well, you can never know anything. You can't prove anything. Nothing can be definitive. You can't debunk anything, right? You can only get like 99.99% sure at best, right? Nothing can be proven. You can never know. So everything is a belief, right? When you say that, that's almost always used as a justification for making outlandish claims void of evidence. It's not all the same. That is a dishonest tactic to be like, well, can you prove it? No, you can't prove anything. So therefore, whatever you say, we have to just go with. That's not how it works.
It's hard when you kind of got a little long. You didn't have to do that, but I know what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Can you give me an example of something that is 100% known? Like something that we're talking about in all these discussions that you, in your mind, is 100% known. I don't believe anybody says that
The sun will rise in the east tomorrow.
The matter exists.
Yeah, water exists. I'm a man. My son is a man. Is a male. Like there's tons of stuff about reality we know for 100%. Rocks exist.
Those aren't really.
If we didn't, we wouldn't be able to advance.
Can I respond? Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, this table's in front of me, and this rock exists, and the sun rises. I don't think that's really science. We're not talking about things that are like we can hypothesize and give you a cause and effect, and then talk about the cause and effect.
Moving the goalpost. You said.
No,
Can you
it's
name
really
anything? You said, dude. The point was that the talking point that you can never know anything definitively is always used as justification to make outlandish claims without evidence. You then say, can you name something? You then say, can you name anything that you know 100%? And then we started naming all kinds of things effortlessly. And then you the goalpost to, well, we're not really talking about how we know things.
No, you completely mistook the question. I didn't mean that at all. I didn't mean like, can you not know that something's in front of you? I meant in the things we just talked about is science. The science is like, how do you know this rock is, 10,000 years old, or is it 2 billion years old, or 1 billion years old? How do you know that? Do you know something like that? Refraction, or
I don't think you could
gravity,
ever
all these things,
know how
not
old
things that are
something is
physical.
like that.
Hold on, dude. You go on for like longer than you need to. And I'm just trying to give a quick point. The quick point is, give me something you know. Like, what are these topics we talk about where we know something? Is there one of those?
Yeah, I know that static electricity will change the direction of an object. Things are planned. So can we just get back to the point?
Well, not really what we're talking about. But go ahead. I mean, I know where you're thinking now. So I'm not going to argue because you just responded in the way that I figured you would, and that's not the question here.
No, I said it just to troll you because it's something that you get triggered about.
No,
Jeremy,
why would you want to troll me? That seems such like a chicken way to.
No, it's a fact. I say you can scientifically prove that you can have an object move based on electrostatics. Okay,
That's
so
not a not a science. Okay, that's not in the spirit of science. So okay, like I can say, well, I know gravity can make things fall. I can show that.
Not the same at all.
100%. It is the same. It's
all right, manipulate gravity.
You don't have to.
Dude, there's a little science experiment.
All you have to do for that.
There's a little.
Stop stepping over Jeremy, man.
There's a little. Well, it's top. Everyone's trying to get in. There's a little science experiment like elementary or middle school kids do, where they manipulate the relative density inside of a beaker of water, and they can make objects rise or fall. We know that happens for sure. We know heat causes water to boil. Like there's tons of things we know. We also know pressure change can cause water to boil. There's tons of things we know scientifically, for sure. It's 100%.
I don't think showing that or knowing that pressure causes water to boil is in question here. I think that is knowable. That is provable.
Yeah,
that's
100%. 100%.
Not from your worldview. It's not knowable from your worldview. You just said that.
It's 100%, right, Zanuck? We know that 100%. We don't.
No, that's not in the spirit of science, and that's not what we're talking about. If you can't see
Dude,
that,
why do you guys use religious terminology like the spirit of and heavenly bodies and
context? It's not heavenly bodies. It's context I'm talking about.
Oh man, it's like religious. You don't have the spirit. You don't have the spirit of our scientism.
Again, that's not what I'm talking about either. I'm not talking about spirit as in religion. I'm talking about spirit as in the theme or context. You keep on conflating and misinterpreting things and taking things out of context for what I say.
No, but you don't understand my point, which is that you're
I do
saying
understand your
you're
point.
not you're not conforming to the theme or spirit of my ideological preference.
I'm
Why are
not
you
saying that
not
either.
conforming to how we perceive it? Like science doesn't care about what you think. And this is going off the rails because it's very simple. My point is important though, because it happens a lot. When people make claims like, I know this is 4 billion years old, and then we point out, well, can you admit that it's a belief? No, well, no, it's supported by evidence. Everything is a belief. And they say that as if to say that it's as close to knowing for a fact as you can get, but you can never know anything for a fact. And that is a bad faith tactic because we know, obviously, we can know lots of things for a fact that can be empirically tested right in front of us. And that is in no way the same thing as claiming something is billions of years old. It is a tactic that is used in bad faith.
Okay. So no, that's not a tactic. I'm not using it that way. I'm giving you early when I jumped in here originally, the spirit of the conversation was to talk about evidence and belief being religious. And when we believe something in science, it's not a religious belief. It's an acceptance. And I think that's probably the best way I can explain it. I think it's probably the best way you could actually hear from us what we're talking about. It's an acceptance of this evidence is a belief. It's not
You're
belief
just
like religious, where
talking
there's no,
fast.
hold on. I let you talk for like 30 seconds about the same thing for a second. So let me like 10 seconds. So when we talk about a belief system, it being religious, that is a belief without any evidence. In science, we have belief with evidence, and we accept the evidence, so we believe the evidence. We believe, the case for the hypothesis and the science. They're two totally different ideas, and so you're conflating the two, which is a little bit frustrating to hear.
See, what you did was you grappled onto the convo and forced in all these other things and forced the conversation down that road, and then you talk past me. And it's really talk about being frustrating, right? Like we were talking to this other guy. These people believe that they know that the Earth is really, really old, and then that evolution is true, right?
Right.
And as he was pointing out that you don't even have the intermediate species in the fossil record, etc. And then they were giving SE a hard time and not really like addressing it too specifically. There was a bunch of tactics going on. I sat back and listened like 30, 45 minutes. So then I just jumped in to say, I mean, do you agree that it's a belief? Because I thought that would be a middle ground. Do you agree that it's a belief that you have? And of course, people that believe in evolution and stuff like that, they can never admit that it's a belief. So they always have to say things such as, well, no, there's tons of evidence, and sure, it's a belief in the sense that everything is a belief, but it's a justified belief based on all kinds of evidence, and they begin to present it like it's as close to a definitive fact as possibly is attainable, because just nothing can be definitively proven. But if it could, this would have been, and that is a dishonest tactic.
Let me take a break. Yeah. So I agree, and I totally get what you said there. Completely expected that to be said by you, and I get it. But there is many differences between your idea of the quote belief of evolution versus the science of geology. And so when we talk about how we can carbon date something for the short term or do other types of tests for long term, or even looking at the type of things we can test in a lab, like how the plate tectonics and how these things work and how they can kind of predict, it's predictable, it's testable. They can do some small things in a lab on some of their concepts, but you can't do that with religious beliefs. Religious beliefs are like, hey, we just don't know how it happened. We think there's a higher power that did this, and there it is. But if you have if you have evidence for that, we can talk about it, but you're really conflating still the belief in the evidence, which is all. I mean, in geology, there's so many things that they do.
You totally
If they believe in
misunderstood
that,
God.
that's just an acceptance of the evidence, not a belief. It's not like blindly just accepting something without any evidence. It's just the opposite of that. That's all I'm saying. I mean, you got to at least give me that, okay? I'm trying to be.
No. I think this is a good point. I think this is a good point because just so everyone knows, every conversation that we have with people that defend the mainstream quote unquote science, this is the thing that separates the two groups. This is the elephant in the room. They fell for and this is my opinion, you guys fell for the psyop of science versus religion, right? And so people think, oh, I don't believe in religion, I don't believe in God, I only believe in science. And therefore, whatever is claimed underneath the name of science, they'll just go into effectively religious beliefs. But they think it's not one because people call it science, right? And this goes all the way back to like the Catholic Church. It goes all the way back to the idea that like the Catholics believed in certain things, and science had to show them that they were wrong. And that's the whole psyop. But the truth is, a lot of us discovered that a lot of the things that you guys call science actually requires immense amount of belief and presupposition that can't be verified and is oftentimes counter to evidence. It requires moving the goalpost and hand wave dismissing and ad hoc rationalization, all these crazy things that you guys still call science. And to us, we're saying, well, that's just like a religion. If you're claiming that you know something happened 4 billion years ago, that is a religion. That is a belief system that cannot be falsified. It isn't scientific. When the evidence directly goes against it, you just start making up new excuses, or you ignore it, or you discredit the source of it, right? And that's the point, dude. The reason, like, this is a perfect example of something that is absolutely just a belief that can't be tested at all.
Okay, thank you for that. That was kind of a monologue, and you accused me of doing that. So I just want to go back and forth. I thought it's interesting, but no. Let me just break it down to its basic elements, or like a real simple example. The earth was created. The earth and the sun and heavens and everything was God created things in 7 days. Now that would be. Do you have evidence of that? Is there any kind of evidence you have that says that God created the heavens and the earth in 7 days?
Well, he
Bro, it's a
rested on the
belief.
seventh.
That's a
But
belief,
it's a
right? That's
belief.
religion. Is that a religion?
No, religion is the doctrine of men. So it's kind of interesting to. I mean, depends on how you use the word, but
Or
it
is
is
it religious?
absolutely a
Not
belief.
religion. Then is it? Is
It,
it
it's,
religious?
it's a belief, and you could call it a religion. I think that, sure, you could call it that because it's in the text, and that's the doctrine of man.
Don't
Blah blah blah.
wordsmith me to death. Just
Our
But do
belief
you
was backed by a man that came to the earth and declared he was God, though, dude.
okay. There.
Well,
So do you have
the
evidence?
Son of God.
So if that's a belief, you have any evidence for the man that said he was God and he created the heavens and the earth in
The
7
Son of
days?
The
God.
Do you have any
500 witnesses of his death and resurrection. Yeah.
evidence, not witnesses? That's a logical
Well,
fallacy.
in history, that's one of the strongest forms of witnessing. So this is the point. This is perfect. This highlights the hypocrisy. So I'm like, yeah, it's a belief. It's a belief. I can't directly empirically validate anything that happened at creation or whatever. It is a specific compilation of text that does seem to be verified by some the Messiah coming here. That's what many people have shown that the evidence says. Now, you can then make a claim about something that happened at the time of creation. You can make a claim about how everything was made or something that happened billions of years ago. And somehow that's not a belief that requires blind faith. It's actually science. This is making my point perfectly. I can easily admit that it's a belief. You guys cannot do that. You need to convince yourself it's scientific fact. Dude, it's not. It's absolutely not. In fact, my belief is stronger than yours. My belief is stronger than yours because I can't change it. What I believe was written thousands of years ago and it can't change. Your belief is so weak that you guys constantly tweak and update it over time, and you get to just go back and rewrite your creation story.
Okay. Look, I want to give you an example. I had a two-part money, as you could tell. It made logical sense. I was going to my side as well because I mentioned your side. You dove in on your side and started going on other tangents. No, that's not how I wanted us to kind of this back and forth between us to go. You agree that the belief with no empirical evidence, and all evidence doesn't have to be empirical. It can be other types of evidence as well that can be scientific. Because something in science has to be, a hypothesis. Then you have a story about it. Then you start testing the hypothesis with it can be rudimentary, basic science type methodology. You don't have to. Other ways, observational science and other types of logical putting together the pieces of things that you've seen or you've experienced in the past or even in the present. So talk about the religious part of it is a belief. There's no evidence that God came down and created the heavens, earth in 7 days, for example. It's just something simple. But there is evidence for evolution, and there is evidence for the earth being 4 billion years old. You may not like it, you may think it's kind of weak, but at least it's something. It's some evidence that we say, you know what? We do these tests, we see how things happen geologically. Over time, this kind of thing happens. So these are the markers that say this happened over these millions of years. Here's the fossil data. Or here's a missing fossil data. Whatever we have, we have all these things that we have as evidence. At least it's something. The religious belief is completely void. I hear you there. The religious belief is completely void of evidence. It's based only exclusively on faith and maybe a doubt that none of this can happen unless there was a higher. Or I'm almost done. Be like in 5 seconds. You went on for like 2 minutes. This is like a minute.
You guys always exaggerate how long I talk.
I was timing actually last time. You had a pretty long.
No,
rant,
you weren't.
I was, but let me just finish this. So without being interrupted, because you did it twice. So
Can I say
the
something real
thing
quick?
is, I'm saying, I'll forget it. Never mind. I don't know why.
Well, how about this? Even me, we should all try to keep it more concise and not interrupt each other, but also everyone try to keep it concise.
Please do
Like, I
that,
don't.
then. You do that, I'll do it.
Like,
I promise.
dude, it's very simple, bro. Okay, he just pointed out that people that have that belief, they do say they have evidence, right? And then you said it wasn't evidence. Well, no, when things are in the past, you're not directly testing it right now. You're making claims about the past. But yes, absolutely. In terms of historicity, there was a guy named Yeshua. He went around, people followed him. He was crucified. His tomb was empty. There were many people that said that they saw him afterwards. In terms of historical, like historicity, there is actually evidence that people invoke to say that that gives credence to the story, right? That prophesied he would come and all that. And then, therefore, what does that story say about creation? It does require belief because it's something that supposedly happened way in the past. Okay? There's no way to directly empirically validate something that happened in the past. And in science, you're doing something right now in the present, physically, empirically, you can test it. Something that is way in the past requires some form of belief. And then you have to then determine the standard of evidence, right? That's how it works. You guys have a belief. It is a fact. And you believe something happened billions of years ago. And when the evidence goes against it, you guys ignore it. You guys come up with excuses for it and then run around and claim that it's not a belief akin to a religion. But it is, by definition.
Was that concise?
Yeah,
I mean, that
I
was
think it's
maybe 30 seconds.
pretty concise. Yeah, it's like I said, Danny, before the geologic column. They hypothesized this before they had any kind of radiometric dating.
Yeah, geological data.
Yeah, I'm just saying they hypothesized these layers, and it's complete bullshit. It's just imagining.
Complete bullshit. Complete bullshit.
Yes. Yes. See this? See this? Look in the chat. See this tree?
Ice core samples.
Yeah, look at this tree, dude. This is the same tree. Petrification can happen in a handful of years. Like, it's certainly less than 100. And they will tell you it says thousands in this, but they'll tell you this is millions of years. It's bullshit.
Here comes the excuse, though, which is you're just going to fulfill what I said happened. When the evidence goes against it, you guys just start making up excuses. And when you appeal to the possibility of some excuse, we're supposed to just grant it as a fact. That's illogical, though, right? Like, if you make a claim and then we deny or challenge your claim, and then you shift the burden for us to disprove it, that's shifting the burden of proof. And then whenever the evidence goes against your claim that you're supposed to be proving, right, you then just start appealing to possibilities that could somehow justify getting rid of that evidence and then think that that supports your position that you've yet to even prove in the first place. Now, I know that's a lot of logical steps to follow when I say it that fast, but it's incredibly fallacious. So, yeah. I don't know. I think it's weird.
The only
Can
comment
I join
have,
in a bit?
yeah, I've only got one statement. I got to go on mute. The only comment I have is how many people wrote about seeing Jesus and some of the ongoings that didn't have the personal, faith in Christianity. I know Christianity wasn't formed yet, but people who are neutral or don't care wrote about Christ. So he was here. And I mean, it's 2024. The year we're in is because it's centered around when he was here. But my closing thought is, with this whole heliocentrism versus geocentrism, this debate's been going on for a long time. And honestly, back when Michelson Morley found no motion, they should have gone back to the drawing board. But that's when the Band-Aids started getting put on. And science should have gone in the direction of science, but it went in the direction of personal belief or not wanting to be sinner. And that's what we're digging up and finding, but it triggers people.
What did I want to say? Can I say something? I agree with Witz that some of the belief in evolution is religious. And I think Zanuck strawmans religion by describing it as Genesis.
Yeah, but I wish that I guess it's not like I don't want to win. Oh, I got you. It's I want you guys to realize it, that you have been duped. You think that there's science versus religion, and you're the one that believes in actual evidence. But when it comes down to it, no, there's tons of evidence that goes directly against your claim, and your claim can't even be verified in the first place, right? It requires immense belief.
Which
And
exact
then
claim
you
are you
guys make
trying to debunk?
any of it, say abiogenesis or how old the earth is or evolution. In
Okay.
all three of those scenarios, there's a lot of evidence that goes directly against the requirements for that theory to even be considered. And when we see the evidence, it's not like people are like, oh, damn, I have a belief that can't be verified. Now the evidence shows it's not true, just like his example of Mickelson-Morley. They just start frantically coming up with post hoc rationalization. And
Well,
that's just like you can believe, you can come up with anything. You can make up the most insane belief ever. And if that's the standard at which you go about supposedly verifying it, then you could claim everything was valid no matter how insane it is.
I totally agree with all of that. It's just when you stretch it to other smaller things that I believe, that's when I want to challenge it.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm making a meta point here because almost every conversation we have in this room, it falls underneath this false dichotomy of like science versus religion or whatever, right? And people think that makes sense. Now, in a way, it isn't a false dichotomy if science is properly defined, but it's scientism versus religion or faith or belief,
Just Christianity,
and that's a false
faith,
dichotomy.
faith in the
What's that?
Bible versus scientism. Yeah, that's what it gets reduced to.
Typically, yeah. I don't think it's a coincidence that almost everyone conflates the conversation about God to the Bible. I think that there's a reason for that. I think that they intuitively know there's something there, but that's my
For me,
opinion.
that's really frustrating for me because I just think no, God's much bigger than that. I could explain it how you'd agree, and it wouldn't be some leap of faith. It would be just like science, even more acceptable.
Yeah, but you notice how oftentimes it's the people that like don't believe in the Bible that force it into the convo. I mean, not always, but in this scenario, that's what happens. That's what happens a lot. Or if you start
Yeah,
talking about God with like an atheist, they always just start bringing up the Bible. Like they
that's
think if they
Stanek's
can show
point.
something's wrong with the Bible. Well, that's what I mean. No, that's what Zanuck did. Zanuck forced
Yeah,
it in. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Hey,
But
maybe
it's
somebody
I think there's a
needs
reason for that.
somebody probably
Derail.
needs to. Sorry, just one sentence. Maybe somebody needs to do a basic video of this is science and it's beautiful and wonderful, and this has slipped into scientism, where there is this presupposition, or you have to have faith and belief in the giants before. For you to proceed, you have to have faith in this, and it kind of leaves the realm of science. That would be a good video.
yeah, that would be good. Professor Dave tried to address it, but he came completely biased. And I've just seen another guy try to react to that, but he came sort of biased in another weird way.
Yeah, I mean, dude, this is the thing, right? I mean, this is where FED is right about some of it, but wrong about some of it. Because like the way that they go about it, they act like there's basically only like two things in all of history that you can scientifically prove. But there is a huge difference between like something being directly in front of me and I am like directly manipulating it, like physically, right? And then me theorizing about what could have been. There's a
Yeah,
huge difference.
that's where that's where it all comes down to. Like, if you're manipulating this thing, then you know. That's how we know 100% that hot water or heat can cause water to boil, and that's just how you prove causes to effects, by manipulating it. That way, you're not guessing. Oh, yeah, it's space time bending. That's what's causing this. No, that's in the realm of pseudoscience because you're not manipulating it.
Right.
I would say
If you apply it to good.
for evolution, like maybe my line would be, I believe that something could slowly mutate into something similar over time. I can imagine a fish turning into a different type of fish, like, or a slimy creature slowly growing an appendage, you know what I mean? Changing a little bit. But so that doesn't seem like a religious claim for me. It's just something that I believe could be possible. But claiming all the animals evolved from bacteria in a big tree of life, that seems like a religious claim.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like most people think that religion is just about God. So if you Google define religion, the first definition will say something about like a deity, but it has all kinds of other definitions right underneath it, and it doesn't say anything about a deity. Religion doesn't require the belief in a deity, right? It's a belief system built upon the doctrine of men that requires belief, requires like blind belief oftentimes.
System of
And
beliefs,
when
yeah.
when you talk about stuff like the origin of life, I mean that's what evolution was called, right? It has the word origin in it. Okay, like you're claiming how things got here, but it requires belief. That is a religion. Like clearly. And if you tell me how like the origin of the universe, that is a religion. You're literally proposing to me how everything got here, right? Like
I think we should point out that religions could be correct, like the Big Bang or Genesis. One of them could be correct, even though it's a far out religion.
But
that's
guys,
correct.
it's not really a religion. It's just the best explanation.
Some of us could be correct, even if we're religious, but that doesn't take away from the point that they should admit they have faith in big ideas that are analogous to religion.
You said it's not a religion, it's just the best explanation. So you use a subjective word of best,
No,
right?
I mean,
That's a
that
subjective
if
word.
there is a better one, then the explanation gets changed. So it's not a religion because a religion never gets changed.
What? Who determines what is better or best?
The community, I guess.
Consensus.
Man.
So
Consensus, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So like that is a belief, and yes, it's a religion because guess what? The consensus back in the day was that the Bible is true, and people were like, everyone believes it, and this is the most logical thing to me, and I think it's the best explanation.
You have
It's
to look at
exactly
the
the same.
evidence. You have to look at the evidence associated with each one.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, but you guys pretend there's a ton of undeniable evidence on one side and no evidence on the other side, and that isn't true. In
So
fact, there's
it's the best
an
explanation.
ample amount of evidence about the guy named Yeshua that came here, and his tomb was empty. I mean, you have to just outright deny history, like our current accepted methods of determining historicity, to deny that.
But isn't it just the best explanation with the current amount of data that you have?
Isn't that always going to be the case?
Not for religions. Well, the interesting
What?
part
of that is if we took that kind of idea, then we wouldn't be able to make any poster predictions, right?
And you guys are admitting, this is why I said actually our belief is stronger, because you guys are admitting that yours is going to keep on changing, which means what you're admitting, you're conceding, it could be completely wrong. You're conceding that what you currently believe to be true could be completely wrong, and it may completely change, and then the whole consensus believes something else that's like the opposite.
That the most healthy way to look at it?
No, but that's not my point. Is that means that it is absolutely a belief. If you're admitting that it can be completely wrong and change, it's absolutely a belief. And you, again, if it's like, what's the healthiest way? That's like a subjective conversation, right? But I do think obviously adapting to new evidence, honestly, is the best way. Personally, I agree with that. But like, that's not the point. The point is that like a religious belief has been the same for thousands of years. They made one claim, and that's what it is. Either it's true or it's not true, but it doesn't change. Your religion is malleable. So every time it gets disproven, you act like it's still correct because you just update it and update it and update it. But the problem is every single time leading up to the falsification, people act like they know it's true and that it's not a belief. That's the point.
If 90% is correct and then 10% gets changed over 100 years, does that unlegitimize the whole way that you look at it?
Right? Now you're just throwing out random numbers. That number doesn't
No, I'm
apply
just
to
saying
anything.
you could the numbers don't matter. It's just about what if 99%.
No, we use induction. We use induction, right? We use the principle that the future will be similar to the past. And what you're saying is we can't use that anymore.
I mean, well, like the point is that actually these topics we're talking about specifically, way more than 10% is changed. I mean, right now your belief is that 96% of it you were wrong about. Right now your belief says you were wrong by 96%, and now you guys. It is true because originally they didn't think dark matter would be there, and they didn't
No,
think dark
there's
energy would be there.
96% of one calculation about it. That doesn't mean the whole thing's wrong.
What? No. It's 96% of it, period.
Of
Like,
mass.
No. That's just, okay, dude, listen.
Not the whole
Dark matter
model.
and dark
Can't
energy
conflate the
combined
amount of
together.
stuff with the model.
Stop interrupting, bro. Stop interrupting him.
I'm just
Dark
making my
matter and
point.
dark energy. Dark matter and dark energy combined together give you 96% of the supposed universe. Okay, so that means that whenever it was original, this universe idea, when it was first proposed, they did not think that there was dark matter, and they did not think that there was dark energy, which means it was changed by 96%. It was wrong by 96%.
I get your point, Witsit, but I think you worded it wrong when you you said the whole thing's wrong by 96%. Because what you mean is one bit of it that you found is wrong.
Well, I'm saying the universe as a whole, as in what is the universe and what is in it. The belief was off by 96%. This guy said 10%. So then I could flip the question back to him and be like, okay, well, what if it's the exact opposite? What if the numbers are the opposite and only 10% of it was supposedly correct, right? And then you guys did the same thing with the Big Bang. The Big Bang model has changed a ton, where now you guys had to start adding stuff to it because it was supposed to have positive or negative curvature, but it's flat. Right?
But we weren't relying on exact numbers for our religion in the Big Bang. It's just an idea of starting at a point.
Do you guys not get the point, though, that like it's clearly a double standard where one side makes its claim, and no matter how crazy it sounds, that's what the claim is. It's never going to change. The other side makes a claim, it can't be verified. People pretend they know it's a fact, and then they subtly change it over time and then act like it's a fact the whole way. It's like if I had to talk to some, here's an analogy. If I had to talk to someone in this room about the distance to Polaris 20 years ago, and I'd be like, dude, you have no idea how far away Polaris is, dude. That's just some belief you have. You can't actually verify that. You have no idea. They would all mock me and say, wow, you're a science denier. We do know. And then they bring up parallax and they pretend they're teaching me how they do know it. And then they recently changed the distance by 100 light years, almost 30% change in distance, right? And each light year is almost 6 trillion miles, 100 light years, right? And now the whole room will defend the new distance as if they know it for a fact. And if you say you do not know the distance to Polaris, that's just a belief that you have, they'll do the same thing. And when it changes next year, they'll do the same thing.
I agree on the point.